Yeah. How will people know how to go to Eventbrite, or how will they know to do that? Do you send them something, or, you know, if I'm going to use it, how do I make it work? How do I use it?
Well, the primary rationale is that it shows up well in the search engines, right? So if you're using it for that purpose, it's putting a bunch of events out there, right? That are, all your introductory classes and one thing or another, places where people can register. And then it's about when people are searching for this or something comparable, you're going to show up in their search placement, right?
In the Eventbrite search placement?
In Google.
In Google, okay.
Yeah. Although you'd show up also if somebody went directly to if somebody went directly to Eventbrite, obviously you're going to show up within their system, right? But what brought this to mind originally was Go to Karate and Tracy Thomas talking about how effectively Eventbrite's system is showing up in search results, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just one more way to get out there where, Google and the other search engines, but it's, Google's the 800-pound gorilla. They have what they call spiders, which is basically they go roam the internet and index sites. And with everything that's new in Eventbrite, they index well, and then it comes up as a relevant thing when somebody searches. So part of the rationale is just putting up lots of events. Another example, which I used to use a lot, going back to yesterday's conversation or Tuesday's conversation about PR, is PR Web and a lot of those different press release sites. I see Don's on here. Don, what are some of the press release sites that you've used online?
Well, the Business Wire, but that's the most expensive, and I would stay away from that one just because it's probably, they charge by the word too. PR Web has some very reasonable programs. I think one starts at like $189, and then there's that. But then there are about 4 or 5 newbies out there that I would not recommend. They promise a lot, but they just don't have the penetration. Right. They're also much more aggressive because they're online services. But PR Web is a standard, easy to load in, but it will be about $189 for your press release. I would not go with their premium program. It doesn't offer. You're not national. You don't need to go national or international. So, but you're right. PR Web. So.
But Marty, the reason I mentioned that is the logic of using PR Web and those other sites where you can put out press releases. Their logic is put your press release up here and all the media are coming to look for it and find it. For our purposes, you really know who the media is in your area that you want to get to. So it's pretty indirect to go put it out somewhere else and hope that the local sports reporter, the local education reporter, the local fitness reporter loops back through and finds you over there for your neighborhood, right? So from a really getting good press standpoint, you go directly to the people that you find in your local area that are the ones you want to cover you. But from a standpoint of search engine, it's another site that Google finds easily, right? So every time you do a press release on something, including the free 2 weeks or the free month of virtual classes, you put it out there. And then if somebody is searching for this stuff or searching for you, then they start finding you all these different places, right? The other aspect of the Eventbrite thing is given the substantive level of what they let you do, is it certainly could be used as an alternative or a secondary source for like creating lead pages on the fly, creating event registration. And it's a very simple way to let somebody pay and register, do a paid registration online, and then just let them process the money and deal with it that way. So it just is, you know, what used to happen is every time you did a different offer, you got to get somebody who knows HTML and they code the page and they do all that stuff. Now there's Lead Pages, Unbounce, and a bunch of others like that. And then there's places like Eventbrite and stuff where you can just put the landing page in the offer and create it. And you don't have to put a lot of brain damage. You can have an idea at 2 o'clock today, and by 2:10, you've got it up and running, and you could be driving traffic there.
Okay, so basically, as far as Eventbrite, we just go in, set up events, and let it go at that. There's not much more to do.
Yeah, well, you could certainly, let's say that I wanted to, you know, one of the offers that pulled real well was a free month of virtual classes. Well, that's fine. I could go to Eventbrite and set up an introductory time for today, tomorrow, and what was it? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Monday if I wanted, right? For the first class for those virtual classes, I could put the email out to my prospect list and a text out to my prospect list. I could send the direct link over to Eventbrite and let them register, right?
Okay.
Then I'm going to get the data. Eventbrite's going to do some reminders for them. Then once I have the data for they scheduled for that free introductory class, whichever, I'd probably have to do 3 links. I'd have to do, here's the link for Monday, or for tomorrow, here's a link for Saturday, here's a link for Monday. But once they've registered, I have the data, I know who's registered, I have name, address, phone number. Then what I would do is I would also make an appointment for them over in Constant Contact. And I would get them on the phone. And then you get them into a introductory only class, and then you treat them like a normal first intro, second intro enrollment process.
Okay. Okay.
What do you do, Mr. Oliver?
Go ahead, Martin.
What do you do if you have people signing up that are outside your local market?
Well,
are you suggesting a secondary profit stream here?
you know, that's up to you. I mean, honestly, if it was me, you know, I would wish them well and let them jump in for the thing and not worry too much about it. I will tell you honestly is, I mean, we've overlaid a bunch of stuff here through necessity that from my perspective adds a lot of student value in normal times, right? So, I like the, early morning or, mid-morning workout thing, at least through the summer. I like the, the daily leadership lesson. Maybe it goes out at 3 o'clock, not at 11 a.m. If people are back on normal routine. I like having the, what Master Moody walked you through, or Google Classroom, or some version of an online support mechanism. And I like having the classes broadcast on Zoom, even if it's primarily live, because if somebody's traveling or they're homesick or whatever, they can still do it. So you can certainly make a decision about that. Probably what I would do is just let them take the free, the free month and not worry about it. If you decided you wanted to be committed to continuing to do this, you can always go through the normal enrollment process and say, obviously, once this is over, most of our students are going to be, here in the school, but we're going to continue to provide the online forum, the online support mechanisms. We're going to continue to promote, put up the video, the recordings of the classes and so forth. So if you want to go ahead and enroll and continue on with that way, you're welcome to. I think it'll be very valuable. Assuming you wanted to commit to continuing to do this, then yeah.
And remember, when we go back to normal schedule, you're going to be teaching the class anyway. You just put the Zoom camera there, just like you were doing, some of the members were doing the class with some of the members in there in the school, some were at home. And you don't even have to have a separate time. And that way you have a beginner, an intermediate, advanced, you have all the different classes. And the only difference is you throw your camera up and let it go right there. Now you could even have an assistant over there that is working the online stuff, who could make comments to them. So they would have their own so to speak, instructor if you had people that were on live.
Yeah, I mean,
That
yeah. See, I do think there's a lot of things that we're discovering through necessity that are valuable on an ongoing basis. I mean, the Rev marketing thing that Master Moody walked through yesterday, or Google Classroom. I mean, why wouldn't we keep using that to put up the assignments, to keep track of them interacting with it from home, to let them post little videos of themselves and all that? Why wouldn't we keep using that once we get it up and running? It seems to me very valuable.
could solve the problem that people seem to have sometimes during the summer when people go on vacation and want to freeze their program for a month, or sometimes they want to freeze it for the whole summer for whatever reason. Well, now they don't have to. They can train from their house during the summer.
Yeah, and we know the whole system is very inexpensive anyway, so it may well be a worthwhile thing to continue. Does that help, Marty?
I'm
Yes.
sorry, I was muted. That helps. It makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to have to be Marty and Martin here, because
Yeah.
we'll confuse you two, especially when you two ask questions back to back.
Yeah, we got Marks, we got Johns, we got a lot of
I do have another question on another
ahead.
topic.
Go ahead.
In regards to the payroll protection process or program,
Yeah.
should we be asking for a loan to cover 2 months or 2.5 months of payroll and rent and utilities, or should we be asking for as much as we can get?
I would ask for as much as you can get.
Okay.
Because the interest rate is so low. And I believe there's a cap on it, though, through that thing. If I'm not mistaken, of course, a lot of the lenders don't even know what I sent out Chris Hearn's, which is the most up-to-date information that I have, deal for everybody yesterday and posted in the Facebook group. So, he's the expert, I'm not. But as I understand it, what gets forgiven is a couple of months of payroll and overhead. But the interest rate is going to be super low. What I had heard it to be is 3 3/4% with no payments for, I think, the rest of the year. But it may even be lower than that. I heard somebody say it's like 0.5% or something. Maybe that's for the first year. So if it were me, you ask for as much as you can get, and you figure out what's forgivable. And as I understand, the condition is, what your payroll was in, January, February. If your payroll is that much or more at the end of the year, they forgive the 2-month part, and the balance of it becomes a low interest loan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was some confusion too. There's the disaster loan assistance stuff that goes directly through the SBA, and there's the payroll protection, whatever it's called, act. Again, somebody like Chris Hearn would answer the question more accurately than I would. But what I've been suggesting is for everybody to go through the payroll protection thing, because one, it's supposed to be pretty efficient process. The money gets dispersed quickly, and it's forgivable. I've done SBA loans before, and I've got to tell you something, Don, you mentioned before, and it's worth repeating over and over and over again. You don't want to spend 50 hours in order to get $50,000. That's a loan. I'm not suggesting anybody go into debt. If it's simple, easy, and forgivable, then going to get, say, $50,000, that's going to be basically a gift and written off at the end of the year, and it takes you a couple hours, that's worthwhile. We all know that, for every hour we spend, we can generate $5,000 from marketing or from renewals or something else. So, try not to let yourself get sucked into a long involved process with an incredible level of documentation and so forth, that just is counterproductive.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. But again, I mean, Chris Hearn knows a lot more about that than I do, and ever will. But I've been posting his updates for you guys, and if you go to their website, they'll have the updates. And what he said in that video yesterday was the disaster relief stuff goes directly through the SBA, and the paycheck thing goes through any lender who's an FDIC lender, but that would certainly include Fountainhead Commercial Capital. The ones who are unfamiliar with doing SBA stuff, I would assume, are going to have a harder time figuring out what to do than the guys who are doing this all together, and here's just a different program that they can facilitate.
And Master Oliver, the template was just downloadable yesterday. That's not so they can take a look at it. It's a relatively easy form. So if you're looking at doing this, it's a 5-minute process. So spend the rest of the other 23 hours of the day working your business. But it's a 5-minute download, and it's a template of what they're going to ask for you. So they're saying prepare ahead of time if you're going to do that. I believe businesses like yours can all apply tomorrow. And then if you're sort of like the other side of the business, it's on Monday. So, just if you're interested, that's what's going on right now. And as Mr. Hearn says in the video, no one knows what's going on. I just talked to my accounting firm, and they have a task force on it, and they still don't really know what's happening. So
yeah, supposedly the federal government is getting all the specifications out to the banks involved tomorrow, if I understand correctly.
And where can we get that template?
Go to Fountainhead. Was it Fountainhead CC?
FountainheadCC.com.
Thank you.
You bet.
Master Oliver, I did the EIDL loan yesterday. It was a super easy process. It didn't take very long. And, after you complete it, you get a confirmation number, and it said, okay, here's your confirmation number, and you're going to get, the $10,000 grant, regardless of whether your loan is even accepted. So that was pretty interesting.
Oh, okay. And that was the disaster relief thing?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, repeat that answer.
That's separate from
Kind of faded out there at the end.
Okay. Okay, so yesterday I did the EIDL loan, the disaster loan. It's a super easy process. Even they've changed it since last week. It's really streamlined. It didn't take very long, and I got done, and I got this confirmation number, and it said you get a $10,000 grant just for filling out the application, regardless if it's even approved or not. Mm-hmm. So, my goodness, why not do that?
The EIDL, I thought the EIDL loan you had to apply through the SBA.
No, Master Moody, that's the disaster loan that Master Oliver was talking about. So you apply for the loan, but you get the 10 grand, and then yes, somebody posted that maybe then they take it out of the PPP money, but that's okay, but the 10 grand is the free money, the $10,000 grant money.
But on the Paycheck Protection Loan, it says a borrower with the current EIDL loan can only receive the SBA Protection Program if the EIDL loan is unrelated to COVID-19.
Yeah, you can't use the EIDL loan for the same thing you use for PPP, but it's pretty broad. You can't pay the same employees twice for the same month, but you can pay them for, say, April and May. It's fine. You just can't double up on how you spend the money.
And you can apply for both PPP and the grant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's good for everybody to know. So everybody should be doing that if you can use the extra 10 grand this month.
Yeah. Well, and the paycheck protection thing is 2 months of payroll and overhead, as I understand it. Again, it's all kind of we'll find out.
Master Oliver,
yes.
It's up to 10,000. It is not guaranteed that you're going to get 10,000. It's up to. So my account just clarified that an hour ago for me. So the wording, it appears out there that it's saying everyone's going to get 10 grand. No, it is a grant, but it's up to. So they're probably looking at a lot of factors of what that is. So,
Scott, did you list what your the payroll and your expenses were for April and May, or how did you?
My wife filled it out, but she sat down and didn't take very long at all. I don't know what all she had, but it wasn't very long.
They ask you for your total revenue for the last year, like from February to February, and then they ask cost of goods sold.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, you know, given the, again, I would expect and hope that nobody that we're working with needs a loan because we're all going to be thriving in April and May. But to the extent that the government is throwing trillions of dollars at the wall, and I would assume that we're all, in the US anyway, that we're all eligible because they forced you to shut down, right? Given that, and if it's forgivable, great. And if it's at a super low interest rate, even if in reality you pay your overhead with the loan and with your net that's left over, otherwise you zero out all your other debt that's at a higher interest rate, great, right? Well, you know, why not? Don't get sucked into a long involved process. But again, Scott's saying you're talking about filling out the form directly on the SBA website, right, Scott?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then the other one is going through, not directly through the SBA, but through any government FDIC insured lenders, including organizations like Fountainhead Capital. Okay, so you might as well. I mean, it's free money. It's just like using this as an excuse to deal with the landlord. Let's say you had an April, March, record April, record May, but we all know that, you know, I'm hearing statistics of 35 or 40% of all commercial, you know, of all commercial tenants aren't going to be willing or able to pay their rent. You know, probably all of their commercial tenants are thinking the same thing of holy crap, right? All the landlords are thinking the same thing also, right? Is, you know, I have a mortgage and I have expenses and I have all this other stuff going on, and now none of my tenants are going to pay the rent. Well, it's a perfect time to negotiate the rent, right? So, and again, just to review, recommendation has been do the letter, personalize it a little bit, send them the triple net piece of your rent. If you're on a gross rent, you know, percentage of it, but send that to them with a letter, and then negotiate for a 6-month abatement. What you're probably going to get, which some of you have already gotten, is some kind of form letter of, hell no, we're not going to play, go get the money from the government, right? But that's their initial reaction too. I got to tell you, behind the scenes, you know, the ones that have a big mortgage on it, they're going and talking to their mortgage lender about forgiveness, abatement, deferral, etc. So they're doing the same thing. They're going up the chain. So regardless of whether you really need the money or not, which I would hope you don't, it's a good time to go beat them up. On other things, I've had this question a number of times too. On a mortgage on your building, on credit cards, on car payments, all that kind of stuff. Well, in reality, if you're doing good cash flow, it doesn't make much sense to try to beat them up, because what they're going to do is that you just have the same balance, and they're going to let you not make the minimum payments for a couple of months. If it's a mortgage, in most cases, they're going to say, well, you know, you can skip 3 months payments, or you can skip 2 months payments, and we'll just add the balance to the end. None of those things do you much good in the long run, unless you just need it for cash flow, right? So again, you know, if you have a $5,000 credit card balance and they let you skip the minimum payment for 2 or 3 months, well, that doesn't help you out very much. If you feel like you have a cash flow issue that needs to be addressed, every one of those creditors are already primed to you know, to work with you. It's just in the long run, it doesn't do you much good. And also be aware and careful of what they're going to do. You don't want somebody who's going to ding your credit for April and May for not having sent the payment, and then add the balance to the end, and just they're not going to come send a record to pick up your car or whatever. So, you know, be aware of those types of things. Again, what we want to all have is a record cash month for April, not have the need for this stuff. But, you know, government's throwing around a lot of money. they're going to waste probably half of it. Since they're going to waste half of it and they're throwing around a lot of money, they might as well give some of it to us because, you know, we're in the business of doing good things as well, right? Is that a fair description? Anything else? Go
I have
ahead.
a question, sir. Scott, where did you hear about the fact that you could do both loans? Because I had read that.
Yeah, good question. Good question. So the best summary I have found, and I've spent probably too much time looking on this, and I put the link in the Facebook group. This is what it is. It's this handout. Mine's all highlighted. It was put out. It's called the U.S. Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship, authored by Senator Ben Cardin. But it's the best summary of this whole thing that I've found. And it was super helpful to me to kind of tie together a lot of loose threads. I posted this in the Facebook group maybe 2 days ago. So it's going to be in there, but this was super helpful to me.
Because I was told that it's not even going to be confirmed until tomorrow what the exact details were. And everything I read said that you couldn't do both. So I love the idea of doing both, and thank you for sharing that. So
yeah, that was one of the things that surprised me too. So
perfect, thank you.
There's a caveat that you can't use them, like you said, for the similar money, right? That was the caveat.
Yeah, if you want, I can tell you exactly what it says because it's almost a negligible qualification. It says you cannot use your EIDL for the same purpose as your PPP. For example, if you use your EIDL to cover payroll for certain workers in April, you cannot use PPP for payroll for those same workers in April, although you could use it for payroll in March for different workers in April.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure.
So if you applied for both and got both and just didn't use one because of the one wasn't as favorable, you could use the one that was more favorable and then just give the money back to the first one. And so you could just apply for both and see what happens. Yeah. It sounds like, and then, yeah.
That's what I did.
And it doesn't sound like applying for one precludes you from getting the other. That I think that's the key thing.
No, and then let me add to that, Matt Moody. I got an email from our local SBA chapter here in Houston. He told me to apply. He said, be sure to apply for both. That's what he said. So,
Okay. Okay.
Our local chapter told us to apply for both as well. That's where we got our information.
Okay. Well, I absolutely guarantee that 50% of the information that all of us are going to get for right now is probably FUBAR, because most of the bureaucrats don't know what's going on and most of the banks don't know what's going on. However, it's better to just run with it as long as you don't invest a lot of time and then see how it shakes out. So again, one of them is directly through the SBA. The other one is through SBA lenders. Sorry. Got to figure out how to turn that off. And again, the only reason I recommend Fountain Head Capital is we've dealt with them a bunch of times and they know what they're talking about. So, but if you have a relationship with your local bank, especially if they were already an SBA lender, they don't have to be, as I understand it, but I'm assuming the ones that were a useful SBA lender. When I did the last SBA note, I started with a list of who all the top lenders were, but ultimately I went to Chris Hearn, and he put me in touch with somebody who would do the type of thing that we wanted to do, and they got it done almost immediately. And the local banks that I already had a good relationship with, it took them 6 months to get me a no. So there's a wide variety and capability on this stuff. Okay, anything else on that before we shift gears? No? No? Okay. Who so far has done at least one enrollment virtual using Skype or Zoom, not in the school? Okay. Domenica, we've used you as an example before. Who else has done some? Jimmy, you've done some? Amanda, I know you've done some. Speak up. Amanda, tell us about your enrollments done virtually.
Well, we're working on our process and came right back around to setting it to a goal. Mm-hmm. We thought that the mindset of a lot of people virtually right now might be short term. So we set it with the goal of the first belt. And then, so kind of changing a little bit how we talked about it. We want your child to earn their first belt in martial arts in this program. And then obviously once we get them enrolled, then it's our job to keep them engaged and go from there. It just kind of helped us feel like there was a program to have them focus on. And that seemed to just kind of help the team feel a little more confident in talking to people. So
yeah, I think that's the best way to go. Dominica did both of her, she did a family of 4 and a 1, and they were both on a year program. Is that right, Dominica?
A normal 1-year trial.
Our usual program.
Yeah. That's what you're doing, right, Amanda? You're doing your normal 1-year trial enrollment.
Right. It's just a little bit different language, just kind of helping them see that there was something tangible that they were going to be focusing on, that first belt, and we were going to be sending them everything they needed to do to earn that first belt. So we did have a family re-enroll because of the virtual classes yesterday. So a family of 3 re-enrolled.
Good.
So that was good.
Well, I was going to say, by the way, everybody should be looking at re-enrollments now. I think that's going to be, we're trying to hit those pretty hard. I think that's a really big possibility that might be something to get people shifted because they don't have other stuff to do.
Yeah. I would go through everybody who has faded away the last 2 or 3 years and make a real aggressive point on that. You're confusing me a little bit, Amanda, but yeah. So what we're talking about still is, the objective is to get to black belt and beyond.
Right.
We start with a trial enrollment. It's only about a quarter of the way to black belt or whatever. And you're doing the normal enrollment.
So the enrollment and everything is the same. I think what we talked to the people on what we've been role playing as is helping them to see it's kind of twofold. One, that in a short term that they can actually earn a belt in this process.
Right.
And then 2, it's still long term. It's a full program.
Sure.
But I think just kind of visually, we were having a little difficulty with, talking about it. So if that helps somebody, here trying to do virtual enrollments, it was something that just gave us some confidence. And, once we did that first one, it was good. But I think, being able to talk to the people virtually about, we're setting this first goal for us, it's orange belt, and here's how you're going to get there. And, it's going to be a great experience for your kid to earn something during this time. So. And
they're also earning the white belt during the introductory.
Right. So they have to earn their white belt, and we've been mailing those out. Mm-hmm. And then giving them the process to earn the next belt.
I would take it from a little different angle. All you need to do is, just like the regular intro, focus on earning that white belt first, because that's going to give them their sense of accomplishment. The parents are going to see that they've interacted, that they've done something around the house to help mom and dad. They're using their 7 magic words, those kind of things. If you do that, what you don't want to do is change your intro differently. And that's what Dominica's done. So maybe we should hear from her first, Master Oliver. We
are still doing the intro class. We have an intro class. They do have to earn their white belt before we get to the enrollment conference. So that's why we're kind of getting into those enrollment conferences now. Right.
And then in the enrollment conference, you're focusing on black belt takes X amount of time. We do a trial enrollment. If you want to add in, the next belt that you achieve after white belt is our orange belt, and that takes about 2 months. So, if we're doing lessons virtually for 2 months, which we may be, then he'll earn his or she'll earn her gold belt in about 16 classes on this date. Everybody graduates on the same day. You're doing the same thing, right, Amanda? So whenever the graduation day would be. Yeah.
I just remember before, we never, in that first intro, ever talked about the gold belt and earning the gold belt. We talked about earning the white belt and then we get them in a second group class, and then we get them excited about the program, and we're talking about goal setting and black belt. And then we go in and talk to them at the conference. And in the conference is where we talk about, we start on the basic program. And I mean, in that conference, if you want to mention your first belt, your next belt that they'll be getting on their journey to black belt is going to be the gold. But we're going to start you off on a basic program first to make sure it's a good fit and you like it, you see the benefits, and then we'll show you how to qualify once you get into that program for black belt training. So that's kind of the normal conversation, and it should be no different, except you have a camera in front of you talking to a camera instead of talking, and you can actually see a person, not just a camera. So it's like them in the room right now, like I'm talking to you when we're doing the discussion. Let's.
Yeah, that's what I was getting confused with, Amanda. Why is their next belt making any difference now than it would any other time?
Right.
I think
I think
without trying to confuse everybody, the process hasn't changed.
Okay.
I think what right now though, I do think that people, and maybe I'm wrong because I'm wrong often, they are thinking for some sort of short-term thing to fill this time. And our job is to teach them. They may come to us for that, but that's not what they're getting.
Yeah, if we talk about that on the first lesson, then they're going to want to just set their goal and only sign up for an orange belt. So that's why I don't even have that on the table.
Yeah.
I just have them earn that white belt so the parents can see that they can do the program. And then we're talking about the goals and the benefits of a black belt. And this is the first step. This is what everybody does when they get started. And then we always can use, if they say, well, I don't want to do the year now and we don't feel we're comfortable talking them into it, is then we can always give them that gold belt, or in your case,
orange belt guarantee.
You give them the orange belt, which is the first belt guarantee.
But can I point out, though, that you're making the general coronavirus error here? The general coronavirus error is that we're thinking that it's different. But don't we always have people come into our schools saying, I got this coupon for 4 weeks. I just want to do it for the 4 weeks. Or I got this coupon and I want to do it like I did T-ball for the 6-week T-ball thing. And I've got this thing, I only want to do it for a few weeks. We always have exactly the same thing, that when parents come in, they think that it's only for a few weeks. That's the normal thing. It's not the coronavirus thing. So we're making the error that this is different. This is just normal. Now,
I couldn't agree anymore.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly the same. So
let's hear from Dominica and what she did, and then we can come back to Amanda.
Yeah, see, but everybody anchor it in. Do the same process, right? And again, to reemphasize Master Moody, I was just getting ready to jump in and say exactly the same thing. You know, if it's a 1-month offer, it's a 2-month offer, it's a 2-week offer, it's a 4-month offer. They all come in with the same logic, right? Doesn't make any difference. And if they get to their first belt while it's exclusively virtual, or they get to their belt starting off virtual and ending up some combination of the two, or ending up everything's back to normal, doesn't really matter. Right? It doesn't make any difference whatsoever. Plus the fact that they're doing it virtually, we're giving them a bonus in terms of the program and the lessons, which is even more valuable.
I think that it's real important to figure out, well, what's the difference now? There's really not that much difference. Everything Master Oliver said is true. And when we start, this is the same as when the Facebook ads go out, our staff handles it differently. Everything goes out, we handle it differently. There's really not that much difference. It just happens to be in this format. The only thing that I would see this as difference is this. If you enroll somebody from 20 miles away because they saw your marketing and now they enroll and they can do it virtually, and then when things switch, you're not going to offer it that way. That's the only thing I can think on my list that might be an actual concern. Okay, handle that, deal with that, see if that's going to be a problem. Give them an option, some kind of option in that case. But again, have a conversation about that unique situation. I only bring that one up because there's a particular thing that might actually be legitimate. But in almost all other cases, I think we're reading people's minds and assuming things. And I only rant on this for a moment because I think we're in danger of lots of other types of things because the whole world's different right now. But it's really not in these kind of cases. We don't need to make those assumptions. We got to be very careful about any time we think it's different, is it really different?
Okay. Master Oliver, do we have enough data? I know some people are getting conversions on these Zoom intros. Do we have enough data to determine an accurate conversion rate? Has that changed versus a face-to-face conversion rate?
Well, let's hear from somebody who actually did it, Master Oliver.
Yeah, well, hang on. Scott, here's the answer, is each and every one doing it is starting with an assumption that this is difficult, different, and people are having a different way of thinking about the world, all three of which is horseshit, right? So you've got to get yourself over that any of these things makes any difference, right? And get into the mode of exactly what you were doing in February, with the only difference is you're talking to them via camera rather than your face-to-face. Once you get over that, then we're going to get back to the same kind of conversion ratios we would have any other time. My guess is even better. Does that make sense, Scott?
Well, yes. However, my question still is, if it's not any different, then wouldn't that show up in the conversion rate? Like, what is different for the average?
No. But what's different is this. What's different is this. What's different is the way the school owner or the program director goes into it trying to make it different. And until you get over that, you do way too much effort self-sabotaging. Does that make sense?
I'm talking about the same way you greet the parent when they come in and walk them through the school, showing them the school. And then when you start teaching the kid, you're teaching the kid in the class, you're not teaching the parent. So you're focused just on the kid. And then when you finish teaching the kid, you then go back and have the parent on camera, and you're rescheduling and using that first intro, rescheduling, making an appointment sheet, and go through those same, this is how you earn your white belt. And Master Oliver, can we go to Dominica? I really want to hear.
Well, go ahead. I mean, we Dominica walked through. The only reason I was doing that, Master Smith, is she's walked through it a couple of times on a couple of our other meetings. But Dominica, walk through your more recent experience.
Do your first intro first. How you that.
Well, again, I did the first intro was the exact same way I always do it. I had, because I don't have the tripod yet, I have somebody standing there holding my Surface Pro. I greet them, as they walk in. I talk to them when they first come in for the meeting, and then I start the tour the same way, how we enter the academy. I go through our whole lobby, showing them everything I would show them if they were standing there. No different. I do show them the classroom a little bit, because obviously they can't see that, and explain to them that that's where we'll be training and all that. Take them into the intro room. I have the parents do the intro with them, as usual, if I can. I do the concentration. I do the rules of respect we do. I do some palm strikes, the kicking, the usual Kung Fu stuff. I go through their packet. I give them their homework. Tell them they can earn their first white belt, and tell the parents to read through the packet. I'm going to be emailing it to them, so I sent that to them, and everything I normally do. And then tell them we're going to sit down after that. If we're ready to, we're going to sit down after the first class and go over everything.
After the first group class.
Yeah. So we schedule them for their first online class, full class, and then tell them I'm going to sit down with them probably after that one, and go over everything, same as always.
Yeah. And so you did another enrollment last night, is that right?
I did one the night before. I didn't have
Okay. And how did the enrollment process go?
Before
Again.
we get to that, Master Oliver, could we just see, while we're talking about the first intro and how she did it, and I've been at their school and I watched her do an intro, and that's exactly what she did. She met them at the door. She walked them through, showed them there's things on the wall that she's showing the history. There's you know, Master Groucho, and here's the other staff, and here's me, and here's our black belt leadership team, and just kind of walked through and showed them the school. And then she walks over to the classroom, main classroom door, and says, this is where you'll be doing your group class. And there's some things on the walls that talk about black belt goal setting and things. And then they walk into their intro room, which she also has the 7 laws of concentration on the wall, and the 7 magic words of respect, and the 4 laws of concentration. And then she teaches the class just like normal. So anything, now I think what you have to practice is the video part, you know, like, do you have a tripod? Is somebody holding it?
Well, actually, logistics on that, we're getting a tripod holder, but I like having somebody hold it because it's like they're walking around with you.
Okay.
In a sense. So I kind of like that because it feels like you can literally walk them around, and I treat them like they're walking with me.
And I like that because especially when you're doing the tour, it might be harder, you know, if you had it in your hand and you're showing yourself, they're a little bit farther away, so they get a bigger visual than if you're holding it at arm's length. Any questions on that first intro part?
Well, and let's start with this. I mean, there's things that you hand them when they come into the school physically. You've got to make sure that they're getting all that material, right? Mm-hmm. It could be mailed ahead of time. It can be emailed by PDF. If you email it, make sure you say, did you get this email from me? Here's what I sent. Do you have that? Great, right? It could be send them a link by text, by email to a page on your website. Here's the information you need to go over between now and next time. Whatever mechanism you use to share it with them, which could be all 3, right? As soon as you have the appointment, you can mail them a packet with all of your paper that you want in it. Put a priority mail envelope in the mail if you want. But through whatever method, you've got to make sure that all of the stuff that you would normally be giving them, class schedules, everything else that they're getting, you want to make sure that all the things that you would show them or talk about, you're still doing that. You want to make sure that all the communication and the structure of the intro, make sure you neither truncate things nor stretch it out. Don't think they need 2 weeks because it's on a video camera, and don't think that you can skip steps and have it work out. Do exactly what you normally do with no change. Are they going to ask about, well, what happens when this is over? Well, we go back into a normal class schedule. If you've decided to, we're going to continue to, broadcast the classes and record the classes. We actually like this. We're going to continue to have the other support tools that we're using, Google Classroom or whatever the Rev marketing site is on our student portal. We're going to continue to do that. But of course, then, you can be in the classes. We can do partner drills and all that other stuff as well.
And Annika, did you, I know everybody has that first intro sheet they fill out when they come in with all their information and how they found out about us and all these other, have they had any previous experience? How long are you going to be in the area and all those kind of things? How did you get that sheet to them?
Well, it depends how they came in. We have different ways for them to come in. If they came in, I sent out an ad that has them being able to kind of schedule information or schedule a time to do a tour, and they have to fill out their information on that. So if I got that, I had their information to call them and all that. If not, I'd either call them and talk to them before the intro, or at the intro, I just asked questions.
I like that. If you have that sheet when you're scheduling their appointment, say, I have a sheet, you know, we've got your appointment. I have a few questions I need to fill in. And then you just ask those questions on the sheet and you can write it all in just like they would normally fill it out. Or you can even email it or text it to them, have them print it off and fill it out and email or text it back, you know, just take a picture. But either way, I think you need that, you know, follow the same procedure, get that first intro sheet filled out like you normally do that has all of their information. And they ask, you know, and you can ask those same questions. Have you had any previous experience? How long are you going to be in it? I mean, just ask the questions, fill it out yourself, or send it to them. Does everybody understand that you have a couple options on that, whatever you're more comfortable with?
Well, and your normal paperwork, if they filled it out on a lead pages site, you can just print that out and you've got name, address, phone number, email address. You can just verify if they filled it out on a Eventbrite site. You can just print out that information. You know, a lot of that is just information that you're collecting at the first step anyway, right?
Yeah.
If you do it on an info call, you should just fill that form out as you go anyway, since you're not going to have them physically in the school.
And a lot of it is, you know, that on that sheet that they're filling out, you know, like to opt in to your website or your ad, they have their contact information. So you're just going to write that on your normal intro sheet. You just have to ask them a couple other questions that are on there that maybe might not have been that, because you don't want to give them too long of one to fill out. You want to get just their basic stuff. And then you can get some of that other information just by asking them over the Zoom.
And I would say one thing to think about here is try to make it as close to your normal process as possible. Like in my case, I'm a big believer, me personally, in that information sheet, even their name and address and stuff. We get that whatever we get in the info script or the info call, we get that, fill it in, and then we do that as an interview one-on-one. We don't hand it to them and have them fill it out, because I think it forces my guys to build a little bit of rapport. That's just me. I do it that way. So therefore, on the intro, we do it exactly the same way. We do it over the video. I just don't change the system. So I wouldn't add a lead pages form for them to do that just because it's coronavirus time. But if you hand it to them, then by all means, do it something where, hey, I emailed it to you, they fill it out and give it back to you.
And my only thing was, if you already have all that information, then the conversation is, I've got your mailing addresses, right. 825 is that correct? The phone number we have here, 303 is that your mobile? Great.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Your
so
email.
You do the same, but make it the same process. So if you happen to do it just replicate that process the best you can, and then it's the same. It's the same. I mean, during this time, and then you might do another intro this way. I mean, we've been telling you this forever. When both parents can't show up, you have the other parent on video. Now you've got the system for that. You know, a lot of you guys haven't done that because, but that's kind of weird. You know, you got to get them on video. That's just impossible. We can't possibly get them on Skype or Zoom or something. Well, now you've got the system in place for that. It's all perfect.
Yeah.
When we get back to normal cycles or normal schedules, everybody's going to be used to the interaction on the online stuff. So I think it would be very helpful.
Yeah. And by the way, if you want an example of the information to give them, we've had it set up forever. If you look at milehighkarate.com/first lesson, that was designed, I just posted in the Facebook group, that was designed for them to look at and for the school to be able to email and text. Not sure how often they do, but to email and text before they show up for the first class. The milehighkarate.com/second lesson is all the information that we would give them at the first lesson to take home and review between then and the second lesson, including a kind of poorly shot, poorly lit video of me doing the prep after the first lesson for them to come back ready to enroll next time. But again, don't change anything other than we want to market heavy to get introductory traffic. We're seeing across the board that a lot of stuff is working great. What we know right now is we're not going to be out in the movie theater, and we're not going to be out at a big live festival. But what we do know is that Facebook is working gangbusters. Google's working. Email is working. Local elementary schools, middle, high schools are much more willing to send your stuff out right now on a free offer for their kids. We know that media is working. I've seen enormous numbers, including some of you guys, on TV, newspapers, radio, getting coverage of all the great stuff you're doing. Now, sooner or later, it's going to be old hat. So the time to strike is now on that. But there's the media would love to come out and film you at the school with an empty school with just the iPad on a tripod doing this stuff, because they want stories related to this, but they want some positive ones as well as all the negative crap that they're doing. So
they'll focus in on the screen of the TV that you have with all those students there, and then a wider angle of you actually doing the techniques with them. I think is very beneficial. I think the hardest thing for everybody to get used to is how to interact with the Zoom link and the meeting. Make sure you're comfortable with the settings, and you can help them download the app, and you can help them, and you need to practice that. How did you do that before that first intro? How did you get them hooked onto the Zoom link and all of that, Dominica?
I have a question for Dominica.
Go ahead.
You're muted, Dominica.
So my question is, after you do the orientation and you need to have your room, you mentioned you're doing a breakout room in Zoom. Is that how you did your conference? Or you just move the people into a different breakout room in Zoom?
Well, or you can.
Right now I have over 30 new students that came in virtual. I've had over 100 leads. I have more appointments. So the intro, like you said, I'm just doing it the same way, giving the same forms, just doing it electronically. But now I'm at a point where I need to get these people enrolled, and usually
okay. Let's go back to then, so we stay on track, and then she'll answer that part, because that's where we are in our progression here.
Well, okay. Dominica, are you unmuted?
Yes,
yeah, I'm unmuted.
How did you do it, Dominica?
The one thing is, we have not had the problem this Saturday. I've got a bunch of people trying class at the same time, so I haven't had the problem of a group of people having to talk to them. What I was planning on doing on Saturday for that was, because I have my own separate Zoom, worst comes to worst, if I want to talk to a bunch of them, I have let them know that I'm going to get back a hold of them, set up a time that day or something like that, a couple minutes after. I figured I'd do it that way.
Okay.
Set up an appointment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me answer the question. Okay. Even here's two methodologies. Okay. One methodology is you do your normal small group first intro. Small group meaning you schedule 3 of them, you schedule 10 of them. Whatever is a small enough group that you can, by talking to them each individually, schedule a follow-up appointment and make sure that you have all their information and that you can make eye contact and do the normal thing that you would do in a first intro, right? Then option 1 is you schedule them for the regular beginners class. And what I like to do is, and sometimes anyway, get them on the phone and walk them into the class explaining, so I have a separate audio channel to them, right? And then get them started in class, but I'm going to tell them ahead of time, at some point you're going to see, or in 15 minutes you're going to see, or in 30 minutes you're going to see an invitation to come to a breakout room. When you see that invitation to come to a breakout room, just accept it, and that's going to literally put us into our own room so we can talk without the whole class going on. And I can catch you up and answer any questions on what's going on there. Then we can go through the evaluation, answer any questions, and go ahead and get your enrollment finalized. So that's one option, right? Now, if I have potentially 20 people, and my guess would be the only thing that changes on video initially is going to be all of our ability to spin plates as easily as we would do physically, because it's going to take some getting used to. Would everybody agree with that? So if I might normally be able to do 5 enrollments in a beginner class, because I take somebody right away and then I take them in the middle of class and then I take somebody else towards the end of class, I may be more stilted, in part by having a hard time having a one-on-one conversation without it being this, right? And in part by just not being familiar with the video system. Is that a fair thing to say for like the first week of doing it? So with that, what I would suggest is you can also do system B, which is I just taught the small group lesson. I can tell them, each of you, what I need to do is schedule a follow-up class and a follow-up time when all decision makers, both parents are here and so forth. I can go through that exact script in a minute. But what I'm going to do is schedule them for an intro class that's going to be private and tell them tonight at 6:30, there's a regular beginner class. What I'd love for you to do is participate in that class. I will be there as well. Any questions you have along the way, feel free to ask. In fact, if you raise your hand, I'll send you a link for a separate group and we can go over on the side and have the conversation and go back. But then what I'd like to do is schedule a follow-up lesson from there so that I can answer any questions, give you a little bit more of a lesson, but then go ahead and go through an evaluation and finalize the enrollment after asking all of your questions, right? So remember what I'm saying, system 1, bring them into the group class, let them know about the breakout, and then you're going to meet them in a breakout room and they just do the enrollment there. That requires 3 people at minimum. That requires somebody's teaching the group class. That requires a program director to move them out. And that requires somebody operating the meeting, right? If you didn't have that capability, and by the way, they wouldn't all have to be in the same place, right? Somebody could be teaching the class at the school. Somebody could be operating the meeting from afar. And somebody could be somewhere else moving them into their room if you wanted to. If you don't have that, if you don't have somebody to do all of that, keep the class going and move them off to the other, then what you're going to have to do is teach the class and then go immediately into a conversation with probably one of them. And so you can still move them into a separate room so that you don't have anybody else listening in, right? And do the conversation. But you have to prep them for, I'm going to invite you to a separate room. When you get that, be on the lookout and then accept. And then we'll go into another room and talk about it.
Can I interject a couple of things there? Right. Number one, if you pull them to a breakout room, the only problem with that is that the kid doesn't get to practice anymore. The kid's visual is shut off, so he's basically sitting there with the parent, which is fine, but just know that for that period of time, he's not entertained. It would just be like you're pulling him out of class and bringing him into the office with mom and dad so you can talk to him. So make sure if you do the breakout room that Tommy is there where you can see Tommy and you're talking to him too. How'd you like it? And, get some feedback there. And the other way that you're talking about, which is the way I think Dominica did it, is she talked to him right after the class. Am I correct, Dominica?
Yeah, when our leadership was going on, I took them out.
So you just had a separate, at the end, just like you normally, if you didn't have multi ones to talk to, you would wait till the end of the class where the kid got the full class, and then I bring the parent and the kid in and talk.
But Jeff, what I said is, at whatever point you're going to move them in, you can move them into a breakout room so that you don't have 20 people kind of gradually logging off, 3 people who are still there and they're not there, and you're having to dump them off and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
There's that pause. So you're still going to have to prep them that we're going to go into a breakout room so that you can get essentially the same thing as going into an office where 22 people aren't asking you questions and Mrs. Jones is trying to ask you about the next stripe and all that normal stuff that goes in to a live class. Right?
That takes a few more moving parts than the way Dominica did it.
No, it doesn't. Dominica, what's
Well,
different?
what I mean by moving parts is somebody has to be teaching the class while you're doing all that.
Of course.
Dominica, the class was finished, she was able to move them right in. So that doesn't require as many moving parts.
Well, yeah, I mean, we still had instructors teaching the class because leadership was still going on. But the
The
other
next
thing
class.
I found right now while you're learning technology, people are a little forgiving on certain stuff. Because
Sure.
the first one I didn't know how to do a breakout room. I literally ended up putting them onto my own Zoom and called them up with a link to get on a new one to talk to me. The second one, I figured out breakout rooms. But the first one, and I just told them we're learning new technology, and they were fine with that. So
Yeah, everybody should hear that. Everybody should hear that Dominica said, that people are pretty forgiving about technology right now because they're not good at it either. And even people that are good at it understand that you're not. So if it takes you a little fumbling to get this going, don't stress about it at all. Nobody's really has any problem with it. And you can, definitely practice before you do this. It's easy to practice. Get your iPhone and somebody else's iPhone and call your friend to log into Zoom, and you can fool around with how to connect people. We just did that last night as we were playing around with the class I taught because I wanted to play around with it, and we got like a bunch of other people connected so we could play around with how to do it. But people are really, really forgiving. I would just recommend getting a couple extra Zoom accounts because they're free. And then if you need to, you've got an extra link you can send somebody if you get stuck.
Yeah, just like Dominica did.
Yeah.
Excellent, Dominica.
Exactly.
Well, and
But
if you
do
laugh
what
it off-
Master Oliver said and be good at it, because what Master Oliver said is the best strategy.
Yeah, but and everybody be clear. If I have a level 2, level 3, a black belt class, whatever going on, I can still teach intros in parallel, assuming I have enough staff, right? So I can teach intros in parallel, just in a different Zoom room, right? So I have, as Master Moody just said, the full account's only $15 or something. I could have 2 or 3 accounts, or a free one that, whatever the difference is, I don't even know. But then I can have intros going on in an intro room, and I can have a normal class schedule, right? And if I invite somebody into a group class, and then I want to move them off into a different room, I can do it one of 2 ways. I can just do a breakout room. I've got to tell them, look for the invitation to go into the breakout room, and then we're literally going to go into another room, so we're not talking over the class and interrupting them. Or you could send them a different link, and then we're going to go into this room separately. The breakout thing is smoother, right? Because then you don't have to have them log on, and now you're waiting 12 minutes because they couldn't figure out how to get the other one to go away and get the new one to start and all that stuff, right? But you're going to have to just coach them through. The only thing I'm saying is you've got to tell them, we're going to break off into a different room. And again, Master Smith, what Dominica said was we had a beginner class, then we had a leadership class.
Right.
And we went into a separate room to have the conversation while the class schedule kept going on.
Yep.
Same thing that would happen physically in the school. And the easy way is spend a little time learning how to do breakout rooms and just move them into a different room by sending them the invitation, and you move in. And if you don't know it, you can always go from the breakout room back to the main class, and then you can take somebody else into a breakout room, right? So
yeah, it's going to be interesting for everybody to practice how to do that, the logistics of it. And that's why it would help to practice it ahead of time. Be in like a group with one of your staff on the other side, and then with another staff go to a breakout room while another staff person is still talking to that staff. Because even when you go out to the breakout room, the other main room is still going on. So the good thing about Zoom is that it gives you a big school for the same price, where you can take somebody to the office and go over conferences. You can take somebody to your intro room and teach them separately while the main class is going on. That's why this is such great technology. If you learn how to use it, there's all kinds of things you can get creative and do when you do this. I know some schools have, like Amanda has more than one person doing enrollment conferences. So she can actually break one off and do one enrollment conference while they break another one off and do another enrollment conference while the class is still going on. Is that correct, Amanda? Yeah. So you're just gonna have to learn how to use this technology, and you know, we can even on our meetings, when you guys get out there and play with it a little bit, maybe next meeting, Master Oliver, we can do a little break off practice for them, so you can see how we do it here and can break off, and that way, for those that don't figure it out, we'll get you up to speed on it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try to cover as much material as we can here.
And if Dominica, now she's got the class done, she's done the enrollment conference, and then she said that the next day she drove the belt and the contract and stuff toward them. Fill us in there, Dominica. What went on for that family of 4? What did you do?
I did it for both families. They were okay with me dropping something off to them, so I just put a box together with a uniform and folders and t-shirt and their belt, because they showed me their homework, and a couple other goodies in it, you know, a pad and some other stuff.
Their goodie bag, and Amanda Olson is awesome at that. She's got a tremendous goodie bag she gives them.
Yeah. And I just drove it to their houses, kind of set it on the porch with a clipboard on top with the agreement on it, rang the doorbell, stepped back. They came out, you know, took the agreement in, signed it, gave it, you know, back to me, took the box, and
you gave them the pink copy, and you took the rest?
I gave them a copy with my signature on it, and then I emailed them a copy with everything filled out on it.
I see. That's good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So as easy as that.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions now? Scott Sullivan, did that answer your questions?
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
Scott,
everybody
let me go back. I'm not going to let you or anybody else derail us with the idea that we're going to have anything less than a banner April in keeping our enrollment conferences comparable in ratios than they would be otherwise. The only gap is going to be you and your staff behaving as if it's different and then making the outcome become different. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so I don't mean to jump down people's throats, but we kind of keep hearing, oh my God, the world has changed, I got to change everything. Or people are not going to be receptive to this. And the level of receptivity from a marketing standpoint already, frankly, surprised me, right? But what we know is soccer, they're not doing soccer, they're not doing baseball, they're not doing rugby, you know, their normal activities, dance schools and gymnastic schools and most martial arts schools are just curled up in a ball in the fetal position in their living room. And we're instead of doing that, we're going full steam ahead, having our normal schedule, everything else that works, but just doing it interactively by Zoom, and people are being more receptive than ever, right? The risk is you're not just as focused on retention and follow-up. So you end up with, instead of having 95% of all your students participate this week, you end up with 40% or 50%, and then people get lost in the shuffle. You've got to not let that happen. Your mission this week has got to be as close to 100% participation as possible. That's why I sent everybody that thing from Joe Corley. It was from a church who actually has more participation in this environment than they were having in the regular pre-coronavirus where everybody shows up live.
If you didn't read that, guys, go look at that that post. It was there was like 3 pages on that that one post there that had all the information. Read that stuff. It's very interesting.
Yeah. But the thing is, you've just got to do a mental catharsis, right? And anyone who's kind of panicked and I'm desperate for, for rent relief and I'm desperate for government money, that's all BS, right? You can set aside a portion of your time to say, well, if they're giving money away, I might as well go pick it up, right? That's fine. If they're giving it away cheap and we're going to waste a bunch of it anyway, they might as well waste some of it on me. That's fine, right? So all of that It's a good time to beat up your landlord. They had it coming and needed it anyway, right? In most cases, it's a good time to get some abatement on the expenses. It's a good time to get some free money because they're handing it out like candy. It's a good time to get some cheap money because they're loaning it out with very little red tape otherwise. But the real issue is we're all getting better results on marketing from things that we would have gotten in the past. And we have to shift gears. If you were dependent upon in-house live birthday parties, you got to go to virtual birthday parties. If you're relying on buddy days, you got to go to virtual buddy days. If you're relying on a booth at the movie theater, well, that's got to go on hold for a little bit. If you're relying on being out in the elementary schools, just the methodology changes a little bit. We get the principals and the PE teachers and the teachers sharing our free offer. It's just what I call the Children's Hospital flyer, rather than you're doing a PE teacher for the day. In fact, the PE teacher for the day thing would probably work just fine for them as well, as long as they're in virtual classes.
If you're going to do any kind of fundraiser or anything, try to tie it in with the virus thing. You know, ways to help all this medical staff that is overworked. I saw on the TV where they were a group got together and they were collecting money to buy lunch or dinner and taking it to the hospitals. Some kind of a local. Look to see in your area what they're doing to help. Some of them are contributing to masks, to buying masks, extra masks for them because they are in short supply and they're running out for a lot of these hospitals and nurses and doctors. So any of those kind of things that you could do that would tie into your community for this kind of thing, I think would be, and again, a great PR opportunity to show, what you're doing and how you're supporting it and encouraging more people to support your community.
Exactly.
Dominica, anything, and since you've had a chance to do them, are you batting 100% right now?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the numbers of intros that everyone had.
Right.
I mean, you've been emailing, I've got Saturday ones and that, but everyone I've done so far, yes, we signed up, but again, it's not been like 30 people, so.
Well, yeah, and I will tell you, when you are drinking from the fire hose, it's not going to be any different than your normal drinking from the fire hose, where it gets a little hectic on who am I going to talk to now, and am I picking the wrong ones? Did I get some buying signals, or did I just talk to somebody that's going to give me all of the objections and not the one who's excited about it? So, and of course, it's a little harder to read that buying signals when you're on the line, and that's why I like the way Dominica got the whole family involved. When they're doing it at home now, there's no parent that has an excuse not to do it with them, because it's a great bonding thing. Those parents need the exercise too. They're not like they're in your class right now and they're embarrassed about being out there in front of the class. Now they can do it in their own home. So you should be able to get a lot more families involved when you have kids.
Exactly right. Questions on this so far?
The biggest thing everybody should hear is it's not, and Dominica's doing a great job on this, but it's not that hard. Stay with what you're doing, follow up with the classes. Everybody should have a pretty easy, straightforward time with it.
Yeah, absolutely. But don't change anything about your process.
Or your price.
Or your price, or your term, or your length, any of that stuff, right? There's not the $49 a month virtual classes only special or any of that stupid stuff, right? And by the way, ignore all the other people out there in our industry. They're just morons and getting worse by the day. There was a guy from the UK and a guy from the US, both of whom canceled all their student agreements, and we're doing a $49 virtual package for the time. That's all BS. It's just the dumbest shit that I've ever seen. You want to stay on full bore. If you don't have a bunch of intro traffic, get a bunch of intro traffic. Get direct mail out to your prospect list. get direct mail out to your inactive list, get email, text, live telemarketing, and automated voicemail out to your inactive list and to your prospect list. Get communication directly with every elementary, middle, and high school in your area and communicate the free offer for all of their kids. Get Elite Digital, pull the trigger, get them on the Facebook marketing for you on the virtual offer. It's pulling gangbusters. Amanda Olson, who's still here. Amanda, how many intros have you had in the last week now? I keep asking you every day, but
we've had about 60 now, and so we're going through the intro, first class, and we've had 3 enrollment conferences. So
good.
One close.
Are you guys, when you're getting those multiple ones, it's okay to set a private conference, that mom and dad can both be there with Tommy. Are you available? What's a good time tomorrow? Can we talk at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock? What's the best time for you? Set up those appointments, and if you have just single in the class, then do them right then.
And again, as a reminder, what we said was you could do a small group first intro. If you want to do it private, but when you get volume, it's got to be a small group intro. You prep them all after the intro. See that milehighkarate.com/second lesson. You prep them for the enrollment that you're going to do, which could be one of 2 methodologies. You bring them into the beginner class and tell them to look for the link to come into the other meeting room. And then you're going to take them in the other meeting room and answer any questions, go through the progress evaluation and finalize the enrollment. Or you can invite them to the beginner class and have a 3rd appointment scheduled already, where it's just going to be them, perhaps on a separate Zoom link, that they're going to do a private class and finalize the enrollment at that time. Which one you would do would, in all likelihood, depend upon volume and their schedule, right? So if I have 30 intros in 2 days, I'm going to have to do both, right? I'm going to have to put them into the beginner class and enroll some after the beginner class and tell them. And then for others, I'm going to have them come to the beginner class and have a follow-up appointment. But that's no different than what we were doing already. If I had 10-second intros show up at the beginner class, no one in here possibly, I think I've probably done it, but it's not easy, could do 10 enrollments back to back to back while the class is going on successfully. What you would do anyway is you would triage. Who are the ones that need a 3rd lesson? Who are the ones that are ready, but I don't have both parents? Who are the ones that are ready, AAA that I can pull first? Who am I going to pull second? Who I'm going to pull third? Same way you would do it in a normal live environment. You're doing it on video in a live environment. Just in this situation, some of them we're pre-scheduling to come into a 3rd class either on the way in, or we're pre-scheduling it at the first intro to do it that way. Right, Master Smith? I mean, that's what you're saying.
And Scott, when I was at your school, how many conferences did we do during that basic class? I know we enrolled 9 people because some of them were family, but if my memory's right, I thought we did about 5 or 6 of them in that hour.
That's what I was going to say. They were one after another. We were pretty much cranking them out. I was going to say 5 or 6.
Yeah. And your wife was a big help in that, and that's why, us sitting in the office talking to him, she was kind of, herding them in and herding them out and getting them all set up and the paperwork signed while you were talking to the next one. So, when you do them like that, now we don't have to do the paperwork right then. We can do that later. All we need to do is get the credit card and information, and then we're going to send them or take that, when we take that little care package to them, their enrollment package, right to them with all that information in it.
Yeah, you would have to have an instructor teaching the group class. You'd have to have somebody operating the laptop so that that's under control, and you'd have to have however many people going into a different room to pull them out. I mean, if I had a big staff, I could have 3 different enrollment conferences going on, and the technical capability with this is there. So some of you even have more throughput that you can do than you had in your physically constrained school, because you don't want to be trying to have an enrollment conference with a class going on and you're having a hard time hearing. If you only had one office or an intro room in an office, you maybe have constraints that you don't have now.
Yeah, we also had that issue with
also, when you go into that office, make sure, obviously you're going to have another laptop or iPad or cell phone or something that you can see them on another screen, because obviously the other screen is going to be going on with the class. So make sure you have that already set up, ready to go. And this is the stuff you're going to have to practice when you do a breakout room, how to have that second screen available that you can see them, they can see you, and the classroom is using the other screen.
Yeah.
Is this all coming together for everybody? Is this all making sense? Anybody a little confused? You know, unmute yourself and talk, guys. You know, if you don't talk now, don't sit back at your school and sit there trying to figure it out. Ask your questions. This is the best time to get clarification on stuff because we're all together. Don't be shy. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, it was good that y'all talked about put them in a second room. I had no idea that you could do that. So the intro, you had to go to another room. I didn't know you could do that. So that was good information.
It's called breakout rooms.
Thank y'all.
It's right at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, Bob, can you pull that screen up and do a little screen share and show them where that is? Because
I doubt it.
I can't.
You can't screen share the Zoom screen.
You have to turn that feature on too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about Zoom in a different context here for a second. I've been pinged 2 or 3 times about, you know, there's news stories now about Zoom being hacked is the word they always use, and some other stuff like that. Well, here's the reality. The likelihood of somebody who's a pervert showing up in your Zoom room and trying to do something inappropriate while you have a bunch of kids is infinitesimally small, right? But there's some basic settings that you should know about and have. So you go in as the administrator and there's an area that says settings. You should know that, one, you should have it locked down that nobody can do share screen but you. Everybody know what we mean by share screen? That's when Bob will pull up, you know, the member site and show you that. Or that's when Master Moody will pull up PowerPoint and show you that. When Mindy pulled up the PowerPoint, that was sharing screen. You want to have it locked down where nobody can do share screen but you. If you want, you can pin the video so that the only video that's shown is the video of the instructor. I personally don't like that because I'd rather the other kids also see the gallery view so they see the other people that are in, right? Number 3, you want it to be that if you kick somebody out, that they can't just log back in and come back in, right? So there's a setting in there for that where if and you just, all you have to do is hover over their picture and there's 3 little dots. And one of the things that gives you the ability to do is to, well, what's the language it used? Bob, can you look at it since you're the moderator right now? Or the host?
The language for what, sir?
For kicking somebody out.
Just remove. I think you just remove.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it says.
I think there's an X by their name that you just click on.
No, but I think it says remove. So you can just highlight whoever
has removed.
Whoever is the host, you can just hit those 3 little dots, and one of the options is remove, right? So if you had somebody who just loses their mind, or if you have some mom who just you know, wants to complain about something to the entire group, or if you had, you know, the pervert who wants to share their screen and flash your class, which is about as likely as somebody walking into your class physically at the premises and flashing themselves. But if you had any of those things, you want it to be when you remove them, they can't just log back in, right? So you want to lock it down so that once you hit remove, they can't show back up, so that nobody but you can share their screen. And you're more likely to have a 6-year-old, suddenly they share their screen and they got Dora the Explorer videos going on or something like that than to have anything that's untoward. But you don't want to have all your students be able to do that, right? You also want to have it be where nothing starts until you log in. So you want it to be wait for host. What you don't want to do is you're not there yet, and somebody logs in, and then 2 or 3 people log in, and maybe it's Jason's weird mom who's pissed off about sharing the recordings. You don't want there to be a conversation going on that you're not included in. So you make sure that every class is waiting for host. And when you get there, it starts, right? There may be something else I'm missing here.
Well, there's also, Master Oliver, if you're not, if you have full control over everybody that's in your room as a host. So if there's something going on in the background, let's say, or there's something that maybe you don't want the rest of the people to see on video, you can actually just stop the video on that person and not kick them out. But then obviously if it's something obscene, but maybe I don't know, maybe mom walks by on a towel or something, I don't know.
How do you put the background on like you had the other day, GMO?
Down at where it says start or stop video, there's a little up arrow, and it says choose virtual background, and then you can just pick something. And they have some stuff in there that's just standard. And this one I loaded up. In fact, all these I loaded up. There's a picture with Chase at the bridge, and there's a Colorado in the fall, and here's Stanley Hotel.
Are these on there, Master Oliver, or did you have to take a picture?
Oh, I upload MP3s, but they have some standard ones there.
Not MP3s, JPEGs. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend those, Steve, for classes, because when you move, it doesn't track really well. It's going to be kind of.
They can't see you real well when you're moving.
If you're in a place where you have to do it from home, you could easily get a green screen and put it up, and it's not. If your lighting's good, it works a lot better. But
Master Oliver, you posted where they could get the green screen, and it was only like $30 or $50 or something.
Yeah, it's cheap. Yeah, if you wanted to, you could do a green screen. I mean, I'm going to say professional, but they're all cheap. All they are is photography backdrops. And if you did a green screen, I was trying to experiment with it this morning, but I forgot to turn on if I have a green screen. See, what happens in teaching a martial arts class on the background, so then now the students could do it fine, because if you have some mom who doesn't want her dirty living room shown or whatever stupid thing she has, you could just tell her, go and put a virtual background on, and we won't be able to see anything but your kid. But see what happens, see my hand, is unless you have a green screen, it doesn't track that very well. So if I'm teaching them a form or something, in fact, that's doing pretty well, but it's going to be a little funky.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell if they got the right hand forward, the right arm up, or the right leg forward. So you might not get every little detail of the movement, but when they stop, you can.
Yeah, but the kid could do it. It's not that big a deal. For the instructor, I wouldn't do a virtual background unless I had a green screen set up.
Right.
But the green screen is easy. And like we were talking about before, see the background that Amanda Olson has there. You could just do the classroom background, and then you have an instructor who's at home with a green screen set up, and they're not going to really be able to tell the difference. With a green screen, it's pretty good. Without a green screen, you get that.
Yeah,
awesome.
Maybe for next meeting, somebody could have a green screen set up in their background, and we'll play with it a little bit. Is there a tutorial that they can go to, Master Oliver, for Zoom?
Yeah, they have a bunch of them.
Okay, maybe we can post those page so they can get
just zoom.us.
Master Oliver, I know you said not to enable people to join before host. What about enable in waiting room? What is a waiting room in 2 words?
That just means nothing starts until you start it.
So do we want to enable waiting room?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was what Master Oliver was saying. Don't let them all be sharing the screen.
No. What that means is that they can log when they sign in. They'll be able to connect, but they'll get the message that we're waiting for host. Right. If you don't do that when they try to connect, it'll just say it'll kind of kick them off. So you want the waiting room there so they can sit there and the message will come up saying waiting to start. It'll be a message rather than not allow them to connect at all.
Yeah, some of you early birds have probably seen that before on our meetings.
Well, we have it set up, I think, right now. Well, yeah, no, we do have waiting for host. What you don't want is the first person who logs in, the meeting starts. Because now, if you're not there, God knows.
Gavin.
Go ahead, Dean.
Just real quick, I had a bad experience last night. I wanted to at least share it. I got hacked last night, pretty badly. So I know that we've all tried to do this without the password and stuff, but I got hacked really, really bad last night. I had to shut it down, and it was a bunch of little kids, and it was pretty awful. So I just wanted to throw that out there for everybody. I don't mean to interrupt everything, but
no, that's fine. Give us a little bit more description and
what happened, what you did.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was right before the classes started. I had just started the meeting and was about to start the class, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, 30 people jumped in. They had total control over all the features that I had control over. So I couldn't remove them fast enough. Bad pictures, obscene gestures, words, commenting on the other people in the class, using racial slurs, anything you could possibly imagine that could go wrong went wrong. And so I was muting it. I had to really work really hard to even tell everybody to get off of it. And unfortunately, it was like my 4 to 6 year old class, so it wasn't the best, but we established a new link. I put a password on it, and I ran the rest of my classes. I got that same class running back up immediately with call loop. I made the best of it, but that is something that's been happening. Even Chris Hearn in that video mentioned it yesterday. They couldn't do what they wanted to do because of it. So it is something that's happening. So I just want to make sure everybody knew.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's why you need that password, and you have to send it to them.
Did you have the waiting room set up, or did you have some of the controls locked out?
I do have some of the controls locked out. I had already logged into the meeting at that point, so that wasn't really. I was already logged in, and it was fine. It was. I was there, and then I literally was about to start the class. So I don't know. Obviously, these guys have abilities to get past a lot of the things that are blocking people from getting in, but so far, so good with the password. That's been helpful. So.
Okay, so
waiting for host will help in that too. So.
Okay. So Dean, explain how you set it up differently now.
Oh, well, all I did differently was just when you make a meeting, you have the option to do a password or not do a password. So it's the same link. Well, it's a different link. I made a new link because I didn't want that link to be active, but a new link with password. And you can actually set the password to like anything you want. It doesn't have to be something off the wall. Like I made it the name of my school, the initials for my school. The only issue with it is just making sure everyone knows. I was using the same link for every class, and I'm still doing that, but just the password part so far has been fine. So
okay, so for clarity, you're using the same link, the same access to the room for every class. The only thing that you did is you clicked on in the settings, require password. And then you created a password that's easy enough to remember for students, but probably somebody wouldn't guess, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So that's a good feedback. I have today been saying the opposite: is don't use a password.
Yeah, me too.
But that's good feedback. So the one modification is, since this is legitimately going on, is set up a password, but use the same password for all the meetings. Now, and again, it's one of those reasons why you wouldn't like set up the Eventbrite page and let anybody register, but on the Eventbrite page, put the access to the intro room, or once they register, they immediately from Eventbrite get the link to join into a group class. See, you would want all of that stuff limited, right? Because you don't want some hacker from, you know, Uzbekistan to be able to go and come up with those things, right? So again, just like any intro would be, when they register anywhere, you want to have them on the phone. You want to know it's a real person. You're going to send them access to the intro from there, and then keep everything else fairly locked down. So don't post the link and the password into like your Facebook business page. That's open to everybody. You know, make sure that you're communicating it by text, perhaps by email, on the phone, postcard, but don't put it up places online where it's going to be open, because that's where some of those things would happen.
Mr. Oliver,
go ahead.
We've been using the same link, Zoom link, for all of our classes. Do you think for the intro, for at least for the first intro, especially if you're using something like Eventbrite, it would be prudent to use a different link for the first intro?
I think it'd be prudent to use a different link for the first intro anyway, because you want a place that's going to be controlled that you bring them in, so that you can do first intros while class is going on, during the day, etc. That's not the link that you're sending out to all the students. And I can tell you by experience, we have it all the time. We have, you know, our staff meetings on this as well. But, you know, one of you guys will show up for a meeting an hour early or an hour late, or, you know, one thing or another. And we have people popping in randomly all the time, right? They'll just see the email that went out 3 hours ago, and then all of a sudden they pop in. You know, Bob will tell you, and that happens all the time. So if you have a completely different room that you're doing the first intros, it'll be much better contained anyway.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Any other questions on that? Dean, thank you for that feedback. And by the way, Dean, you are our record setter lead for referrals. So I challenge anybody. Jan is in second place. So Jan is our referral runner-up king. Amanda keeps telling me she talks to broke people who would be a bad fit. So thanks for the effort of screening us from kissing more frogs, Amanda. But Dean is certainly in the lead. Thank you, Dean. We very much appreciate it. We appreciate two things. We appreciate you guys screening for folks that you wouldn't mind having in this meeting, who are smart enough and capable enough to do this. Plus, having your recommendation ahead of time is very, very, very helpful. As you know, for your students, it adds credibility. So, Dean, thank you for your feedback on the Zoom meeting, and that one tweak to help anybody else from having a bad experience. And number two, thank you, Jan and Amanda and others for your referrals. But Dean, you're the grand champion so far. So thank you much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, sir.
Grandmaster Oliver.
Go ahead.
Quick question about we're launching. We worked out a deal to get a free 30-second spot with iHeart to do a radio spot. And so my thought was to put together a script promoting the virtual training that we're doing and launch it. I post or I have Amber posting right now the script that we came up with. Do you have any just quick recommendations? Is, you know, first of all, is that a good idea to use that spot for promoting that, or should I have a separate offer for them? Right now we're doing a month of lessons in uniform for the first 50 people, and we've already actually got 50 people just from our other promotional stuff.
Good.
But
yeah, if they're comping you 30 seconds, great. I would say on radio, the longer the spot, and true on TV as well. Typically you can buy 60-second and 2-minute radio spots and TV spots. On radio and TV, but radio especially, it's extremely difficult to get direct response, meaning you have to go like way above and beyond what you would do anywhere else to get them to immediately call you. One rule of thumb would be on radio. Of course, a problem you have right now with radio, by the way, is why gas is having such a problem. is people aren't out in their car driving, commuting to work and so forth. And 90% of radio, probably 99% of radio was they're in their car. But what I've seen work best on radio is the first 5 callers, the first 10 callers get this free thing, right? And so at the end of the spot, we're going to give the phone number. The first 10 callers get a free $150 package, but you've got to be one of the first 10 callers. And then there's a countdown to it. And so, Ripple Martial Arts is doing a fabulous virtual lessons for the entire month of April, and they're going to give you the entire month for free. In fact, they're going to throw in a $50 martial arts uniform. So parents, for all your kids who are going stir crazy, stuck in your 4 walls, this is something that they could do that would be very beneficial, and they may even earn their first, even their second belt in martial arts doing that. Call now, 7 whatever, the phone number. The first 10 callers are also going to get the $50 value uniform. Starting now, give them a call. It's got to be something like that.
Okay.
So it sounds like a news report rather than an advertisement.
Yeah. Well, especially that's why longer spots are good, is you can get more of that newsy feel. But Greg, you've heard them all the time, the Rolling Stone concerts, we have front row tickets, and the first 10 callers get registered for it's got to be in that mode, right? Be very careful not to try to push them to a website or to some other mechanism. You give the phone number and it's the first 10 callers, because what is as soon as the spot is gone for 20 seconds, they forgot they even heard it.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
you could do, by the way, not to completely discount. You can certainly do a text to for it. We even had one of our members a while back on the Long Island Expressway had a billboard where the only response mechanism was texting, and they were getting good response. So you can do a text for this offer, and then in a system like Call Loop and some of the others, you can do
the simpler the number, the easier it will be for them to remember. Say it obviously more than once.
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Like June
I think I made the big mistake of, so the script we have right now actually just has virtualripples.com. Go there, or we have myfreekarate.com is what we're saying to go there. So take out the website and use the phone number.
Yeah.
Because they'd be driving.
Well, I would say they would be driving, except for iHeartRadio. A lot of people listen to that on their mobile phone.
Drive them to the right, but drive them to the phone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying is that normal radio stations nobody listens to them, but iHeartRadio, people listen on their mobile phones quite frequently, even when they're stuck at home, because they're working out or they're doing stuff. I even do iHeartRadio quite a bit on my phone.
I understand, but still something like 95% of radio listeners are going to be in the car. Right, that's just the stat. And by the way, if you listen to satellite radio, like for me, I never listen to local radio because I've got XM in the car. But if you listen to satellite radio, they're aiming at long haul truckers and all that kind of stuff. It really gives you a sense of what they're. And if you hear some of the really big direct response marketers, Ron LeGrand's a friend of mine. I mean, he's one of them. But you'll hear their ads are, call our number and leave your email on our voicemail, and we will send you the report. Right there, they'll even be, we're going to send it to you. It'll always be drive them to a phone or sometimes text. Right. But not on radio. Don't send them to a website.
Okay, thank you.
But really, the best thing that works on radio is the first 10 callers get the front row tickets to the Rolling Stones, right? So the first 10 callers are going to get the free package, plus they're going to throw in a free $50 uniform. But you have to be one of the first 10. And then, of course, anybody who calls, you're going to give it to them. Sound good? Okay. Well, on that note, thank you, everyone. Hopefully that was helpful and got you up and running a little bit.
And guys, if you have any issues between now and next Tuesday, post your question on Facebook so we can answer it. And everybody get that tutorial. Give them that link again, Master Oliver.
I go to zoom.us. I just posted in the Facebook group.
Okay, perfect.
Matt Smith, can I keep you and Bob and Greg for a half a second?
Are we going to do a breakout room?
We don't need to. We can just kick everybody
I'm kidding.
off.
I'm kidding.